Normally, when we set an intention and align our energy with the universe, we expect the path ahead to unfold with clarity and grace. That is the promise many have heard, the magnetic pull of manifestation whispering that our desires are already on their way. But for those who are just awakening, or awakening again after a long spiritual winter, this path may feel unexpectedly obscure, even contradictory. You take one step forward, and life pushes back. You visualize abundance, yet scarcity shows up. You ask for love, but loneliness deepens. Why does this happen? Why would the universe seemingly withhold what you are so ready to receive? The answer lies not in punishment or rejection, but in refinement. The universe, in its infinite intelligence, rarely delivers our desires through a direct route. Instead, it guides us through a labyrinth of inner transformation. These aren't delays. They are divine recalibrations. These aren't blocks. They are blueprints for who you must become. The soul does not come here simply to receive. It comes here to evolve, and evolution is rarely comfortable. You may feel as though you've been called, only to be tested. That is no coincidence. The moment a soul declares its readiness for more, the universe responds, not with immediate fulfillment, but with a question cloaked in circumstance. Are you truly the one who can hold what you're asking for? It is not about denying your dreams. It is about making you match them. Every challenge that arises is an energetic invitation, a sacred mirror asking you to refine your vibration, purify your motives, and embody your future self today. This is especially true for those in the second awakening. You've tasted the truth once before. You've felt the presence behind the veil. And now the universe calls you again, not just to remember, but to embody. Your path is not lost. It's being recalibrated. You are not off course. You are being reformed. You are not behind. You are being asked to walk more deeply into yourself. So if things feel like they're falling apart, remember, the soul often begins its realignment through the cracking of the false self. And what feels like chaos is, in truth, the sacred choreography of your becoming. There is a moment, often subtle yet unmistakable, when the universe begins to test the sincerity of your desire, not through words, but through contrast. You ask for expansion, and contraction follows. You visualize abundance, and debt knocks on the door. You call in love, and loneliness deepens its silence. At first glance, this feels like betrayal. It feels as though the universe has not only ignored your request, but responded with its opposite. But this, too, is part of the divine equation. The paradox is the path. The universe, as a conscious intelligence, doesn't test you to torment you. It tests to temper you. Like fire refines gold, resistance refines essence. What you meet after the intention is not a punishment. It's a portal. A portal to the version of you that can hold the frequency of what you seek, without breaking, without running, without forgetting who you are when the winds shift. For many in the second wave of awakening, this phase is especially poignant. You've done the work before. You've read the books, walked the labyrinth, faced the night of the soul. But this time, the lessons feel deeper. They don't speak to your intellect. They reach for your embodiment. And so, the universe begins to mirror not your wish, but your current resonance. It's asking, are your thoughts aligned with your words? Is your nervous system aligned with your vision? Is your energy a home for what you're calling in? Because you can only hold what you've become. And becoming is not a declaration. It is a daily, sacred embodiment. The trials that now unfold are not random. They are tailored, precise, and patient. They arise not to block your way, but to become the way. You are not being denied. You are being witnessed. Your soul is being measured not by its longing, but by its readiness. This is the wisdom of the universe. It waits, not for your desire to be strong enough, but for your alignment to be true enough. And when that alignment rings clear, when your being resounds with the note of inner truth, the world begins to shift, not because you forced it, but because you became the version of you it was waiting for. When you begin to consciously embody the reality of your desires, When you dare to live as the person who already has what they've asked for, something unexpected often stirs within you. It's subtle at first, an old habit resurfacing, a thought of unworthiness whispering at midnight, an irrational fear clinging to your certainty like a shadow that doesn't want to dissolve. This is not regression. It's resistance. And resistance is sacred, not because it's pleasant, but because it signals that the former self, the one who lived in limitation, lack, and survival, is beginning to lose its grip. Every inner rebellion is proof that the old self senses its end. Imagine your former self not as a set of behaviors or memories, but as a living archetype, a familiar creature who once ruled your internal kingdom. It knew how to survive disappointment, how to shrink dreams before they could hurt you, how to expect less so you wouldn't feel the ache of absence. Now, you're inviting a new version of you to take the throne. A sovereign self who no longer bows to fear, who expands instead of contracts, who breathes as if the universe is listening, because it is. But the old self doesn't leave quietly. Tests. It clings. It negotiates. It may even wear the mask of wisdom or realism, asking questions like, "Are you sure you're ready? What if this isn't safe? Who do you think you are to believe in something so big?" This inner rebellion is not failure. It is friction at the threshold of transformation. It is the soul's growing pains, the necessary rupture between who you were and who you are becoming. And the greatest mistake many make at this sacred juncture is misunderstanding the discomfort. They believe it means they've done something wrong, or worse, that manifestation doesn't work. But manifestation works through the crumbling, not around it. This is the moment to hold your center. This is the moment to greet your fear like an old friend who once protected you, but is no longer needed at the gates. If you can love the voice of doubt without obeying it, if you can bless the resistance without bowing to it, if you can remain devoted to your evolution even when the old you screams for comfort, then you are no longer hoping to become your future self. You are being it. The moment you choose to manifest something greater than your current life, you are not simply placing an order with the universe, you are declaring a new identity. And with that declaration, a new contract begins. It is not a contract of wishes, but of embodiment. Not a promise of immediate results, but of irreversible transformation. You do not receive and then become. You become and then you receive. This truth is subtle yet absolute. The universe does not respond to your longing, it responds to your being. And your being is shaped not only by your thoughts or words, but by your reactions, your rituals, your choices in moments of uncertainty. So the question is no longer, what do you want to attract? The real question becomes, who are you willing to be while waiting? Because this waiting is never passive. It is initiation. It is the fire that forges the version of you who is truly aligned with what you seek. You may say you desire financial abundance, but are you cultivating the habits, the energy, the emotional stability of someone who can steward wealth without fear? You may long for sacred love, but are you becoming someone who can hold intimacy with depth, with honesty, without hiding behind the masks of performance or protection? The universe is listening, yes, but it's also watching. It watches not to judge, but to reflect. Because what you manifest will always be a mirror of who you are, beneath the desire, beyond the affirmation, beneath even the intention. This is why the path of manifestation is not linear, it is spiral. You revisit old fears from a higher place. You meet old wounds with new awareness. You are not going in circles. You are moving upward, inward, forward, all at once. And so, in the heart of every challenge lies a sacred invitation. Not to fix, not to force, but to embody. To walk as if the path is already clear. To breathe as if what you've asked for is already en route. To live not in waiting, but in becoming. At some point along the spiral path, a deeper realization dawns, not just felt in the mind, but known in the body, remembered in the soul. The universe is not a wish-granting machine. It is a sacred mirror, reflecting not what you ask for, but what you are. This is not meant to punish. This is meant to awaken. because your external world, in all its beauty or chaos, is the crystallization of your inner resonance. When you look at your current life, you're not seeing destiny. You're seeing vibration made visible, a reflection of how much love, safety, and possibility you truly allow yourself to receive. And this is where many stumble, not because they lack intention, but because they resist alignment. They speak words of abundance while thinking in scarcity. They visualize success while vibrating in fear. They affirm love while holding their hearts in hiding. The mirror cannot lie, not because it is cruel, but because it is loyal. It reflects not what you pretend to be, but what you are in your most honest frequency. To shift the reflection, you must shift the self. And to shift the self, you must first stop blaming the mirror. This is the turning point for many on the path of conscious manifestation, especially for those awakening again who have seen the mirror once, but forgot that it was always reflecting back their own becoming. What you seek will not arrive through effort alone. It will arrive through resonance. You cannot fake this. You can only become this. And the moment you do, when your inner world hums with the same frequency as the life you desire, then the mirror responds. Not with delay, not with drama, but with a quiet, unmistakable yes. That's when things start to move. Not because the universe finally decided to bless you, but because you finally became the version of yourself it could recognize as a vibrational match. Imagine for a moment that your former self, your conditioned identity, shaped by wounds and repetition, is not just a memory, but a living creature. It has breath, it has stories, and it has survival strategies. It once protected you. It learned how to keep you safe by playing small, expecting little, and staying unseen. It learned how to fear loss before love, how to anticipate disappointment before joy. This creature is not evil. It is ancient. It is loyal. And now it is scared. Because with every affirmation you speak, with every new choice you embody, with every risk you take to believe in more, this creature senses its extinction. Your future self is moving in, and the old self is being evicted. But like any tenant forced to leave the only home it's known, it won't go without a fight. It will raise doubts disguised as logic. It will summon fear dressed in realism. It will resurrect old patterns like ghosts at midnight, hoping you'll seek comfort in the familiar. And this is the moment of reckoning, not with the universe, but with yourself. The discomfort you feel is not failure. It's friction between two identities, the one you've been and the one you are becoming. So don't run from the rebellion. Welcome it. Honor it. Thank the old self for how far it brought you, and gently but firmly let it know you're no longer in charge. You see, transformation isn't just about visualizing the light. It's about sitting in the heat of dissolution. It's about staying centered as your inner systems glitch and tremble. It's about breathing through the collapse of false certainty and standing tall in the unknown. This is the sacred fire of awakening, the in-between, the unraveling, the death of the outdated self so the soul can be reborn into form. You are not losing yourself. You are shedding what you never truly were. And in that shedding, something miraculous happens. You begin to hear the voice of your future self, not as a fantasy, but as a presence already alive within you, quietly saying, "Keep going. You're almost home." There comes a moment on the path of conscious creation where visualization is no longer enough, where dreaming must give way to being, and wishing must be replaced with embodiment. This is where the practice deepens, not into more effort, but into more presence. Because you are no longer just holding a vision, you are becoming the version of yourself who already lives that vision, breathes it, and moves through the world with its frequency. Embodiment is not about pretending. It is about remembering who you truly are, beneath the conditioning of lack and limitation. The future self you long to become is not far away. It already exists within you, encoded in the intelligence of your spirit, waiting not to be summoned, but to be chosen. And so, when challenges arise, and they will, you are offered a sacred opportunity. to respond not from the reflexes of your past, but from the wisdom of the self you are becoming. This is the shift. This is where manifestation begins to crystallize, not as a concept, but as a way of being. The question is simple, yet revolutionary. How would my future self respond in this exact moment? Not what would they do in theory, but how would they breathe through this discomfort, speak through this tension, walk through this uncertainty? Would they collapse into fear or rise into calm clarity? Would they grip the outcome or trust the unfolding? Would they react out of habit or choose from wholeness? The power of this inquiry is not in the answer itself, but in the posture it invites you to take. Because each time you choose to respond from your future self, you collapse the distance between who you were and who you are becoming. This is how the new self gains ground, not through dramatic leaps, but through subtle, sacred decisions made in ordinary moments. To pause before reacting, to hold presence when fear spikes, to speak from grounded truth rather than anxious grasping. These small, quiet shifts become the foundation of a life aligned with your deeper essence. They are the brushstrokes painting the reality you desire, not outside of you, but from within. And the more often you practice this, the more familiar it becomes. You no longer reach for your future self, you rest in it. You no longer try to manifest, you live as the one who already has. In this way, transformation becomes inevitable, not because the world changed first, but because you did. As you begin to live from your future self, choosing presence over reaction, alignment over impulse, and embodiment over wishing, something subtle yet powerful begins to shift in your field. The outside world may not immediately mirror back the enormity of your internal change. You might not see instant signs, quantum leaps, or fireworks, but beneath the surface, your reality is already rearranging itself in response. And here, in this seemingly quiet phase, many forget the most potent practice of all: celebration. Celebration is not reserved for the final moment of arrival. It is the sacred act that affirms the path as already becoming. To celebrate each step, no matter how small, is to declare to the universe that you recognize the movement, that you are in tune with the process, that you trust what's unfolding even before it takes form. When you choose to pause and acknowledge your growth, even if no one else can see it, you are sending a signal to the field. I am aware. I am aligned. I am here, and I honor this becoming. You see, most people wait for a grand outcome before they feel worthy of joy. But the awakened ones, those who've danced through fire and silence alike, learn to celebrate the journey itself. They smile when they notice they responded differently. They breathe deeper when fear used to rise. They whisper gratitude for the inner victories that have no witness but the soul. This practice is not trivial. It is alchemical, because when you celebrate your transformation, you stabilize it. You integrate it. You anchor it into your nervous system as a new baseline of identity. Even more, celebration shifts your frequency into receiving mode. It moves you from seeking to allowing, from striving to magnetizing, from becoming to being. So take a moment today, not to wait for the finish line, but to honor the step you just took. Did you meet discomfort with grace? Did you catch a fear-based thought before it hijacked your truth? Did you show up with intention, even in the smallest way? Then pause. Acknowledge it. Bless it. Feel it in your heart. Because when the universe sees that you're celebrating the journey, it knows you're ready for more. Not because you need more to feel fulfilled, but because you've already made peace with the becoming. Every time you encounter resistance, confusion, or challenge on the path of becoming, you are standing at what can only be described as an energetic crossroads. It is not a place in the external world, but an intersection within your own field of consciousness, where two distinct frequencies present themselves for you to choose from, one rooted in the echoes of who you've been, and the other emerging from the silence of who you are becoming. This moment, though often subtle, holds immense creative power, because the choice you make, the tone you choose to hold, begins to inform the shape of what comes next. In moments like these, the old self may feel louder. It will pull your attention toward fear, scarcity, or doubt, not out of malice, but because it has practiced these pathways for so long that they now feel familiar, even safe. But the new self, though quieter, is equally present. It does not shout. It whispers. It reminds you gently that you are no longer required to react from fear, that another response is available, even if your nervous system hasn't yet learned how to trust it. This is where the deeper practice lives, not in controlling the external, but in choosing your internal posture when the external feels uncertain. Will you lean into contraction or expansion? Will you rehearse the story of limitation or rehearse the energy of alignment? Will you collapse into "this always happens" or rise into "this too is part of my integration"? These moments are initiations, not obstacles. They are invitations to realign with your chosen frequency. Not the one given to you by past experience, but the one you've claimed through presence and vision. What manifests in the physical is a delayed echo of the energetic choice made at these crossroads. And so, the more often you meet these moments with grace, the more the universe begins to trust your vibration, not as a performance, but as your new default. Over time, the crossroads become easier to navigate, not because the world becomes easier, but because you have trained yourself to listen deeper than fear, to feel wider than doubt, and to stand longer in your center. This is not about perfection. It is about constancy. It is about walking your becoming through the friction, through the fog, through the stillness, with the knowing that every sacred decision you make here is reconfiguring the timeline of your life. After all the visualizing, aligning, embodying, and enduring, we arrive at a simple truth, one that does not ask to be believed, but simply recognized. You do not manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. And who you are is not defined by your words alone, but by the consistency of your energy, the clarity of your alignment, and the quiet conviction with which you meet life moment by moment. The universe, in its infinite intelligence, is not rewarding effort nor punishing delay. It is responding with impeccable precision to the frequency you hold when no one is watching. It listens less to what you say and more to what you settle into when the world goes silent. It is not moved by declarations that are not yet anchored in the body. It waits patiently, lovingly, until your inner field becomes an energetic match for what you're calling in, not because you must earn it, but because your vibration must be able to sustain it. This is why manifestation is not an external strategy, but an internal reconfiguration. You are not here to chase outcomes. You are here to become the kind of presence that magnetizes them without force. Every test, every delay, every unexpected detour has served one sacred function: to bring you closer to the version of you who doesn't just hope for the life they desire, but embodies it. The deeper lesson is not that you must strive harder, but that you must surrender deeper to the truth that you are already enough, already connected, already worthy, even as you expand. When you begin to hold this knowing not just in your mind, but in your bones, the universe begins to mirror it back, not as a favor, but as a natural consequence of coherence. And so, let this path continue not as a frantic effort to reach a destination, but as a gentle unfolding of the you who has always been waiting beneath the noise. Celebrate the subtle wins. Trust the unseen shifts. Speak from wholeness. Choose from alignment. And most of all, remember this: the life you are building does not begin the day it arrives. It begins the day you become the one who can live it. And that day, my friend, is always now.